Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Check. What up, world? It's the man with the plan, Bert McGurk, aka PR, the King of Hearts, and you are now tuned into Clocking Out, the podcast you listen to when you need to get motivated and inspired to doing bigger and better things. What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Clocking Out. I'm your host, PR, the King of Hearts, and today we are with Megan of Full Moon Children. How you doing, Megan?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Your stream last night, for those who did not, those who weren't able to tune in and missed it, was an amazing stream. I got to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting to get as educated as I was on it, which is what led me to want to have you on, because, and to be completely transparent, I'm Spanish, and Spanish people kind of like, we're scared of that type of stuff. Like, it's like a superstition thing that we have. But after hearing you explain a lot of things and getting a little bit more educated on it, I was very curious. I do have a story that I would like to share with you a little later that has to do with that, which is why I'm a little nervous about it. But
Okay.
before we get into any of that, and before we get into the whole tarot card reading stuff and getting more properly educated on that from you, I want us to get a better idea of who Megan is. So could you please give us a brief intro of who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about your background of how you got into this, I don't know what skill or gift, or because I won't, would you consider it a profession? Like, I feel like it's not something that people can learn. I think, unless I'm wrong, I think it's something you got to be gifted with and have. You, or am I wrong in that?
The general consensus is that yes, you typically do have to have a gift for it. But one of my big things is that anyone can learn tarot. It is a profession. Usually it falls under the category of like psychic or astrologist. Um, but yeah, getting right into me, I'm Slowpoke Megan, and you guys may know my dad, I've been kind. He is how I got into all of this circle. I'm 24 and I'm from Lufkin, Texas, which is about 2 hours north of Houston. I was homeschooled, and that allowed me the time and ability to do a lot of things throughout my teen years. So I started working when I was 14. I was a barista. That was one of my longest things that I did. I worked at a bookstore. I worked at FedEx. I did construction. I was a podcast producer, actually. And the longest thing that I have been doing, like concurrently, is tarot. And I started doing that when I was 15.
And what can you tell us a little bit about how you got into tarot card reading? Like, what initially drew you to this practice? Like, what was it that said, you know what, I want to give this a shot? Or did you have like what would you call it? Like not an outer body. What is it called when it's like
Like a calling.
yeah, there you go. You know, like, did something happen that made you feel like, you know what, I got to lean towards this? Or did you see someone else doing it? Like, how was it that you came about tarot card reading and made you want to take it on professionally to do it?
So at the time when I was 15, I had a friend who they were pagan. And so they practiced things like tarot, and stuff like that, spell work, magic. And I thought it was fascinating, but like the day that I like got into cartomancy, tarot falls under the skill of cartomancy, um, was actually reading a plain deck of cards, like a 52 card deck that you would see like on a poker table. And it was just one day in the early summer. It was probably almost exactly 9 years ago. I was like, I want to try this out. I want to see. It was partially because of that friend. It was partially because of a boyfriend who was also, he was raised pagan. And so like he had talked about how his mom did it. And so, yeah, I just got this deck of playing cards out and, Googled like can you read playing cards, and laid the cards out, really thought about what I felt for what I was seeing with the numbers and the shapes and all that kind of stuff. And then cross referenced that to a guide that I had found online and was like kind of shocked that what I felt about the cards almost exactly lined up with what was actually on this like guide that I found. And yeah, since then, I kind of dropped the deck of playing cards after a couple months when I got my first tarot deck, because that just seems like the natural progression of things.
And what was it that like got you to like really stick to it? Like there's learning it and having fun with it, but is there something deeper in it for you that makes you want to continue doing it and continue reading other people's cards? Because I know from experience, I there's people like I mentioned before we got on, like I'm Puerto Rican, and in like the Spanish household, things like that is looked at as like witchcraft and stuff. So one, I would like you to properly educate me and many others who are listening or watching who may look at it like that. Can you go a little bit into that? And also, is there something deeper than just you enjoying it that makes you want to continue doing it, especially reading cards for other people? Because, like I said, I know that there's people, I've met people that want to do that, have done it, but they always tell me they just read their own cards or just specifically like their family members. They don't do it for anyone that they don't know, and like they have their reasons for it. Is there something deeper than you just enjoying it and really having that feeling of wanting to do it? Like, do you feel more connected when you do read cards for other people or anything like that? Or is there certain rules that you don't do, like family members or yourself?
That's These are fantastic questions. First, I want to address what tarot is and what it isn't. While yes, many religions, non-Abrahamic religions, use tarot, pagans and Wicca and things like that. Tarot itself is not witchcraft. It is a tool, and it just so happens to be that that tool is most often used by pagans. Um, I would not consider myself a witch. There might have been a point in time where I did, but and nothing against witches whatsoever. But I am a very spiritual person. Um, I do believe in God. I often call it spirit or the universe, just to be more inclusive. Because I know in this day and age, a lot of people have complicated feelings about the relationship with a higher power. So I like to be inclusive in that way. And tarot is not, it's not of the devil, it's not devil worship, which is a really big misconception. I feel like, unfortunately for me and many other tarot readers, pop culture has made tarot seem, like you said, like it is witchcraft, like it is bad. And I think, like with any tool, it can be used for bad. Um, Look, I'm going to say something controversial. I think that the Bible can be used for bad. So can tarot. And it's just a tool. And so that's what tarot is. Actually, it was invented sometime in the 1600s to 1700s. In France is where we can trace it back to. Originally, it was just a game, and it turned into cartomancy, a form of divination. Um, so that's what tarot is and what it isn't. And for me, so the reason I stuck with it is because I just had this really, really uncanny ability to read the cards and discern the messages from them. I read for myself. I read for family. My dad actually, he I did it. I started at 15, right? And he didn't get a reading from me until I was 18. I'll tell that story a little bit later. Because it's a really good story, but I don't want to sidetrack from the point I'm trying to make. I felt like I was helping people through it. And of course, it's like a fun party trick. And people would be like, oh, like this is really neat. Like you're really accurate at this. But then as I got older and I did it more and more, I found that I was really helping people. Um, and I felt like God had given me this gift to be able to help people, to help them on their life path, and to give them hope. Like that's the biggest thing that tarot I think does for people is it gives them hope.
I love that.
Um, I tarot is not necessarily going to reveal all about your future. It's a reflection of the soul. And so I'm not going to tell you anything about yourself that you don't already know. However, when a third party who you don't know knows all of the stuff about your life, people are like, okay, this is coming from something else. This is really weird. Like, I need to listen to it.
Hmm.
So I do it because it helps people. And I've been helping people. I've been reading tarot professionally for 5 years, 9 years as a whole, 5 years professionally. And the lives I've been able to impact, I mean, it's countless at this point.
I love that. I love that you took that approach with it and you're using it. It's like you said, there are many things. I strongly believe in that too. I believe that there are people. I'm sorry, you hear the ice cream man passing my house. I strongly believe, I strongly believe in that also, that people can manipulate and use anything for good or evil. And the reason I have like a not a, I don't know what you would call, it just scares the shit out of me. It goes
Mhm.
tarot card reading along with like Ouija board stuff, like all of that. I strongly believe, you see, I strongly believe in, I don't know what you, the spirit realm, that whole
Mhm.
world. I believe in that. I believe in that power. I believe in that
Yeah.
energy. And the reason I believe in it is because as a kid, I've experienced things that, in all honesty, I can't explain and that I remember. And then even after educating myself on certain things, I look at it like, all right, that wasn't the wind, or that wasn't something I just imagined, or I really saw something, or I really felt something, or, along with having dreams and then them coming to, just to reality and becoming true, and, having, or like the whole thing of deja vu, like all those things I feel like are connected to that other world, that next life, the spirit world, another
Mhm.
energy, another thing. And I believe in those things because there's so many different stories and so many different incidences and so many different experiences that I myself had or other people have shared, that I look at it like it's more than just a coincidence. It's more than just,
Mhm.
that a gust of wind through a window or something, or a creaky floor, or like all those things. I believe in that. And the reason I really got interested and I wanted to talk to you about it is because as a kid, I had an experience where I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My older sister was in school. My younger sister, I believe, like was with one of my other cousins or something like that at the time. And it was just me and my mom at home. And the reason all this got me really curious to talk to you is because as a kid, there was a lady going around in the neighborhood, going door to door, offering to read people cards just for
Mhm.
free because she wanted to do it. She ended up going to the lady next door and she was reading her cards, and then she stopped in the middle and she said my name. She's like, who's
Mhm.
Gilberto? And the lady
Mhm.
was confused. She's like, why? She's like, because something's telling me to talk to Gilberto. Mind you, I'm like 5 or 6 years old at the time, and I'm next door with my mom, and we don't even know what's going on next door. So the lady just
Mhm.
starts telling her all this stuff to my neighbor, and the neighbor used to babysit me, so she kind of caught on to some of that stuff. But the thing is that nobody in my family, my friends, and no one would call me Gilberto. They called me by my childhood nickname, which was Beltito, which is my name in Spanish is Gilberto, and I'm a junior.
Mhm.
So there's basically they took Belto and they took Chiquito, which is small, and they put it together and they got Beltito, which is little Berto. So that's what everybody would
Mhm.
call me. So that's what they knew me by. Nobody knew me by Gilberto. So they were like,
Mhm.
"Where's?" So she was thinking at first, "Oh, it's his father." She's like, "No, he's
Mhm.
little." And what do you mean? She's like, "He's
Mhm.
little to the point that I can see he's struggling to get on a countertop or something to reach something." And so she got like nervous. So she runs over and gets my mom and tells my mom, there's a lady that wants to talk to you. So I'm playing outside. My mom didn't want me to meet this lady because she was like, what the hell's going on? So she went, she spoke to the lady. She told the lady, listen, your son could read cards and I want to teach him. And my mom's like, hell no. She's like, I don't know you. My mom was like new to this also. But what makes it even crazier is that I found out later on down the line from my grandma, my great grandma was considered a witch in Puerto Rico because
No way.
yeah, So this is where it got like really crazy as I got older and I heard this story and everything. Like she told me the story. She said she didn't want nothing to do with it because my mom, my great grandmother, she was always with my great grandmother because everyone looked at her like she was crazy. So my mom would always tell me stories that she would always carry this book, and in the book she had all these things, like all these notes and stuff like that. And so I talked to my regular grandma and I asked her, like, why was your mother considered a witch? And it comes out that in Puerto Rico, she was a natural healer. Like she was the one who would
Mhm,
go do the births naturally with no like medicine or nothing. She just used like regular plants
mhm.
and herbs. And because she would heal people and do it that way, they looked at her as a witch. So they called her
Mm.
the La Bruja in Puerto Rico. That's what she was known
I was
by.
about to ask if she was a
Yeah.
bruja.
Yeah, that's what they called her, but she never did anything like with dark arts. But she would always tell
Mhm,
my mother that she could, that she knew those things and she believed it and she saw certain things. So that's what got her
mhm.
to believe if there's a bad version of it, there's a good version of it. So that's why she
Right.
went full in on doing the whole natural healing and all that spiritual stuff. And so when you mentioned the whole thing in your stream yesterday about how, which I want to bring up also how you met that other lady that basically you saw right through her and she was just like making up BS to the point that you've known that there's people out there that try to just trick people in believing that they're getting rid of spirits or they're cleansing you and all this stuff. She would talk about all those things. So it's like you mentioning all that and bring it like it made me think of all that. And I'm like, you know what? I really want to speak with her to just know more and just properly educate myself because
Mhm,
like I said, in my family, like I bring it up and everyone knows
mhm,
that's what my great grandmother did, but they don't bring it. That's like, no, leave that alone. That's bad juju.
mhm.
Like. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's the curiosity thing. I look at it like I'm a
Mhm,
strong believer in the whole bloodline thing. And I believe like if it's
mhm.
in the family, like it's in the family. Like some one of us
Yes.
can do it. So then I always think about it like what that lady said, that apparently I could do that. And I always had like these strange things happen where I'll tell my mom when I was little, like, okay, be careful. There's gonna be an accident here and something. And she wouldn't believe me. And I would do things, I'd be like, okay, the radio is gonna play this song and this is gonna happen, and it would happen. Or I would say there's gonna be a
Yeah.
car accident with this color car, and I would be really young, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're," but then a car accident would happen with that same color car. Like it would be weird things like that. And they would just be,
Yeah.
oh, you're just guessing. And I'm like, how the hell am I guessing? And the only reason I would
Right.
say it is because it would happen and I would feel like, all right, this is like a deja vu thing. But then I'd feel like, all right,
Mhm,
am I just going crazy? So I was like, I need to make sure I'm not going crazy. I would say it out loud. And then it started happening so
mhm,
often that I was like, I got to leave this alone. I don't know whether
mhm.
I'm really just good at guessing it or what it is. But then the more and more I started finding out about that world and stuff, the more curious I got. But I never knew anyone personally enough where I can ask them questions. Like, because back then it's not
Right.
like we are now where you can DM someone and. So I share all that with you because like I'm just curious. I'm curious to know like if you had any experiences like that with whether it's deja vu or whether it's like you're in the middle of a reading or something, or whether like speaking to a family member or something and that certain thing just comes up out of nowhere and it gives you that urge to be like, you know what, stop, I need to focus on this person. Or you've had a weird
Mhm,
incident where you say something and you end up meeting that person coincidentally or something, or deja
mhm,
vu or any of those things. Like have you ever had any of that with your experience doing
mhm.
tarot card reading, or even if it's not reading, just any of those type of like feelings or events happen to you?
Experiences. So, yes, uh, a lot of tarot readers also go by the title of psychic medium, and, I would say that rings true for me. I'm a psychic medium, I'm a tarot reader, um, but I don't really advertise the whole medium thing, just because it's not something I ever wanted to completely throw myself into. Interacting with the spiritual world is very exhausting, and it's at least for me, and it's very emotional. Um, Now that's super cool that your great grandma was a bruja. We have brujas and brujos around here, where I live in Texas. And so like when I'm doing readings, uh yes, sometimes the spirits of my clients' deceased family members do come through, and they will have like a specific saying that I'll be like, "Hey, like your grandpa, he wants me to tell you this." And they're like, "Oh my god, like how did you know that?" Because it's something really specific. Um and actually I want to share a story. This happened a few years ago. A friend of mine, her father very unexpectedly passed away. And it was very, very sad. It was a very sad time. And this person, she knew that I did tarot. She knew I was a medium, but she was always scared of it. She was like, I don't know about that. Like, that's really cool that you do it, but like, that's not for me. So I knew her opinions on that. And there was this one night we were having an event at my dad's tattoo shop. And it was like an exclusive, like invite only thing. So there weren't a ton of people there. And the entire night, there was this man, a spirit of a man, who was like, you have to talk to my daughter. And I was like, she's not going to believe me. And he just was like, no, you have to talk to her. Like, I'll make sure that she knows it's me. You have to talk to her. And it was like, the only way I can describe this energy is that it was like becoming like heavy and like urgent. Like, please, I have to tell her this. And so I know that she's okay with me telling this because she told it on her own podcast years ago when it happened. So I went up to her and I was like, hey, like, can I talk to you for a second? And she was like, yeah, sure. What's up? And so I went up to her and I kind of pulled her away from the group. And I said, look, I know you don't believe in what I do, but your dad needs to talk to you. And he's been trying to get me to talk to you all night. And finally, I'm going to let him say what he needs to say. And immediately, like, she gets this look on her face. And I'm like, I have one chance. And this was exactly what I was worried about, was she was going to like be really upset with me. And she was my friend. So like, I didn't want this to like destroy our friendship, you know? And I was like, your dad says that he's coming to you in the form of a female cardinal. And female cardinals, you know, they're mostly brown with like a little bit of red. And her jaw drops open and she's like, who told you that? And I was like, did we lose connection?
We're good.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Cool. I was like, it was your dad. Your dad is telling me that he's coming to you and he's visiting you in the form of a female cardinal. And she was like, someone had to have told you that. You can't know that. And I was like, I don't know what to say. And so then I started talking about some other stuff that I won't go into, that he was like literally standing, like, imagine like, you know, a man standing behind me with his hands on my shoulders, telling me what to tell her. And it was so strong. And like by the end of it, like we're both crying because she started to believe me. She was like, there is literally no way you could know any of what you're telling me.
Yo.
Because I haven't told anyone any of this. And, you know, that wasn't through tarot, but that was through the experience of being a psychic medium. And at the end of it, she was like, that just gave me so much peace, because she just felt like her dad hadn't been with her. And for me to be able to say, he's been trying to tell you, you haven't been accepting the message. It was really quite an honor that he trusted me and he used me as a conduit to be able to tell his daughter, I love you one last time. Sorry for getting emotional.
No,
Like,
no, you're
like
complete.
that.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm like, I have goosebumps and stuff right now as you're talking and everything, because in all honesty, when it comes to things like that, and I really appreciate you sharing it and being as open as you are, because I've spoken about this with Savvy and other people in the community. I strongly believe that you can, like I always say, real recognizes real. But on top of that, when it comes to things like that, especially when you've experienced similar situations or similar events with that supernatural stuff, you know when someone's full of shit and when someone's like being genuine. And you can tell by the way
Right.
you present yourself, the way you share your stories, by the way that you're being honest, you're sharing something real and true. And I appreciate that, because I feel like
Thank
people
you.
need to see that. I feel like there's a lot of, like the lady you met at the Renaissance thing, like there's a lot of BS out there when it comes to this, and it sucks because I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of people play around with this and abuse it just to take advantage of people in a bad situation or in a weak point where they're just desperately looking for answers for something that they can't explain, and they look towards that, and they have, there's so many people out there that'll prey on people just for that, just to get money or just to get attention or just, and
Right.
then there's people that genuinely do it because it's like you're saying, like they feel connected, they feel like it's their duty to do that. I feel that's why, like, I didn't know what to really call it, if to call it a profession or nothing, in the sense that I feel this is something that, yes, it's something that is serious and everything, but at the same time, I feel like it's something that's beyond a regular job, or it's
Mhm.
like you feel like it's a duty of yours, like it's just like
Yes, it
Savvy saying
is.
in here also, it's a gift, it's something that not many people, there's not everyone in the world can say that they've had that experience, or that they've been able
Yeah.
to feel someone speaking to them, to go and reach to someone else and everything like that. That's why you sharing stuff like that, I feel like, is important for people to understand that maybe they haven't had a similar situation, but maybe just like myself, we've been through certain situations where we've had something happen that we can't explain through regular
Right.
knowledge and regular stuff, that it only leads to that point, like it's God, or it's something from the other side trying to
Yeah.
talk to you, trying to reach to you, because I believe in it the same way that there's evil in this world, and we see it all
Yes.
the time, we see it. And I'm a strong believer that there's no way in hell that there's such evil in this world that we see in plain sight, with flesh and blood, of people getting hurt and dying and killing each other for no reason, for the dumbest things. There has to be good. There has to be something else to counteract that. There's no way one
Right.
exists without the other, period. So I
Right.
strongly believe in it. I believe it the same way that there are people who do devil worship, or do evil witchcraft and all that stuff. If that exists, which is out there and we've all seen some form of it, I know for a
Right.
fact that the other stuff exists. It's just it's not talked about. That's why I feel like people need to have conversations or see or hear your story, because they need to know that the other side does exist. That the same way that there's
Right.
magic words or magic rituals that you can do for the bad stuff, there's also the same things that you can do for the good side of things also. And
Mhm.
it's what I wanted to ask you related to what you just shared. You even said it, you didn't use the tarot cards. Do you specifically use it as a way to like focus that gift of yours, to do it through the cards, instead of not being overwhelmed? Because I know, not personally, but I know from other stories that I've heard, people such as yourself that have this gift to do that do get overwhelmed, because it's like they get
Right.
overrun by all these different feelings and energies and spirits, and everyone trying to talk to them at once, because like I said, there's not many people with this gift. So whenever they do find someone, they come to you like, listen, help me. So it's
Right.
hard. So how do you deal with that? When, like, has that ever happened to you where you had many different overwhelming feelings and many different spirits or different energies coming to you at once? And if so,
Mhm.
like, how was it that you were able to manage that and control it? Do you use your tarot cards? Are there other things that you tried before doing your card readings to help you get through
Mhm.
that? And if so, what were they and how did they help?
So my tarot cards, like I said, are a tool. And so when people come to me specifically, I do use them like when we enter a reading, I am I have the intention of helping that client. And sometimes I pray out loud and sometimes I pray just to myself over the cards and I ask God, please give me the ability to help this person on their journey. Please give me the ability to help guide them. And then I will also open the floor for, Lord, please bring any spirits and angels that need to be here right now with this person. And sometimes they come through, sometimes they don't. Sometimes people will ask, "Hey, is my is my grandpa here?" And sometimes it'll take me several minutes to focus and see if that energy is there, and I will sense it. And sometimes I have to be like, hey, I'm really sorry, but he doesn't want to say anything. He's with you, he's guiding you. He doesn't have anything for me. That's another really interesting thing is that like spirits are very they're just humans who have passed on to the next life. And so like there have been plenty of times where spirits are in the same room with me and my client and they're just like, mm-mm, I don't believe in all this hocus pocus that you're doing. And I'm like, you literally A lot of people still keep their earthly beliefs even after
Yes.
they've crossed over. Um, or they're just wary of like, I don't know who you are. Like, I'm not really interested in like talking to you. Like, this is between me and my granddaughter or whatever. Um, is there an instance where a feeling has been so overwhelming where I've had to do something about it? Um, if I am in a place that is known for spiritual activity, like Galveston is one of the most haunted places in Texas. It can be pretty overwhelming at times because in places like that, for people like me, you can see you can see the spirits almost as if they're people. And then there have been other places where I didn't know that there were, spiritual activity or anything like that. There was actually a spring here around here that we went to, and we stumbled across this, like, in Texas, this is like a really big thing. You'll find like these itty bitty graveyards for like small families. My family and I, we like stumbled across one in the middle of the forest, and I was like, we have to get out of here. We have to leave.
The red flag was just you being in
And
the forest. That would have been the first sign. As soon as I can't.
it was like the dates on the graves were like really old, like early 1900s. But I was like, we have to get out of here. And like, I've never had the flu before this time, but after we left, I immediately got sick. And that was when I was 17, so I was still pretty new at all of this. And now, when spirits come to me, maybe it's a wandering spirit, that's like, hey, like, can you help me? I'm like, your person isn't here. Like, there are some mediums, there are some psychics who will take that task very seriously and try and research and find who the spirit is trying to talk to. I don't do that. A lot of the times I will pray, and just ask God to lead this person, to where they're trying to get. Um, Prayer is a really big thing for me. Saying things out loud as well. When I've been in the presence of neutral or evil spirits, I will start speaking out loud. Um, I have never been a Christian, but I'll start doing Hail Marys. I will invoke the name of Jesus Christ. And because I believe that Jesus Christ was an amazing teacher, and a lot of spirits are afraid of that name.
Yes.
Um, they're afraid of the holy names like that. And I even had a situation in San Antonio where I had to invoke that name because of some energy that had attached itself to me. And almost instantly, I felt relief after doing what I needed to do in terms of prayer. Um, but when I'm reading tarot, it's a very safe space for me and my client. Again, because I pray beforehand and I pray afterwards, and I'm creating this safe circle for me and the client to be able to get clear on where they're supposed to go. Does that make sense?
Yes. I what I kind of like when you like whether you go into a space that you know has like you mentioned like the most haunted place in your area that you've been to, or do you ever come across somebody that you feel like has that bad energy or something bad following them? Like, have you ever just met someone and automatic? Because it's me, and I've had that sometimes. I'll meet someone and I get this real horrible feeling, or I'll get goosebumps or
Yeah.
something just looking at them.
Sick.
And for whatever reason, I get this feeling of disgust, like, what the, like, and I don't know the person from a hole in the wall, but I'll meet them and I'll get a really bad feeling, and then I'll be like, you know what, I rather not, for whatever reason I have a gut
Mhm.
feeling to stay away, so I stay away. Have you ever had something like that, but that it's a bad entity or bad energy or whatever it is that's really like that's not supposed to be there, messing this person's life up?
I've seen, just as angels walk this earth, and I firmly believe that, demons walk this earth as well. I want to say something about that real quick though before I move on to my next point. Um, So, people, if you believe in Abrahamic faith, or if you just believe in the concept of a creator, we are made in the image of that creator. meaning we hold some kind of power because that power is that creator is so powerful, right? And not everybody believes this, but I do believe that there is an entity like the devil who creates demons.
Yes.
And I also believe that humans themselves, unfortunately, are also the collective negative energy has the ability to create demonic forces as well. And so I have encountered demons. Some of them look like people, they look like you or me. And I, again, start invoking the holy names and go the opposite direction. Some of them are incorporeal, they are just energy. And it is, people have asked me this, is there a difference between like bad spirits and demonic energy? Absolutely, there is. There are some people who just have bad energy around them. There are some spirits that were bad people when they were living. And then there are things that are demonic. And those demonic things, I want to make this super clear, are below humans. Humans, being made in the image of the creator, we are more powerful than demons. And people, when they are afraid and they put that power into that demonic energy, they are making it stronger than them.
Yes, I believe in that.
And so, like, when clients have come to me and been like, I'm so afraid of like demons and bad spirits, I'm like, but you're above them. Like, God made you, and a demon wasn't made by God. So it's lesser.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are like, I've never thought about it like that before. And I'm like, yeah. We as children of God have more power than these beings that sometimes don't even have actual bodies. When you have that kind of faith and you have that trust in the universe, in the great creator, like I'm not afraid of it. Fear is healthy, and there may be that human reaction of, oh, that's not good. But I'm not like, oh, I'm so scared, like I gotta run away. I'm just like, all right, I gotta go.
Yeah, no, I believe in
But
it also.
and I have had clients with negative spirits attached to them. Um, and there is ways to cleanse that. There is ways to remove that. Prayer being one of them. Incense, crystals. Some people do Reiki, which is like it's a Japanese form of energy healing. I haven't really tested that out yet. Um, and some people who have negative spirits attached to them, it doesn't matter what I do. If that person has an attachment to that spirit in some form, it's on them to remove it. I don't know if you've heard of oho with like the egg.
Yes, yes.
That's a way to remove energy, not necessarily spirits. And sometimes it's just as simple as asking the spirit, like literally saying out loud, hey, you are not meant to be here. Please go towards the light. And sometimes that's literally all it takes. But I encounter more positive spirits and angels than I do demons and bad spirits. So
No, and that's it's just like Savvy was saying in the chat. She doesn't know if you can see it or not, but she basically is she's appreciative. She's appreciative that you're taking the time to properly educate people and share from your
of
experience and your
course,
information. And that's the reason I wanted to do this, because I was one of the people myself that looked at this in a negative way. And I hesitated to watch your stream because I wanted to support, but again, in my mind, the way I was raised, it's like you don't deal with that, any form of it. You don't talk about it. You don't. But then I'm like, you know what? If she's been doing it for so long, and I've gotten to know your dad, I looked at it like there's no way, there's no evil in these people. You know what I mean? So I was like,
thank you.
I gotta be misinformed. You know what I mean? I want to properly educate myself. I don't want to just take it there, like I said, there's some people that just come across others who use this in a negative way, just like you're saying. There's many people that could do the same
Right.
with the Bible and the name of God, and they like to abuse it. They know that there's power in these things, but they don't properly know what they're dealing with, and they they abuse it. They abuse it. They use people's fear or people's lack of knowledge, and they try to manipulate them and use other things to have power over them. And sometimes it works, sometimes people see through it, but at the same time I feel like that experience is what trickles down, and they share that experience with everyone else, and automatically everyone just assumes everyone that's related to that thing is the same way, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't just think that. So after really watching your stream and you reading a few people's cards and sharing from your story and your experiences, I was like, you know what? I want to learn more. I want to have a more in-depth conversation with her, because I feel like there's a lot more to this than just reading cards and just a few bad experiences and stuff, you know. And it's like you're saying, there's a lot of things that can happen to a person, whether they feel it, whether they experience it, whether they see it. And it takes a person such as yourself that has that gift to be able to tell them, like, listen, it's not what you think it is. It's someone else trying to tell you something. Or maybe it's not just you having bad luck. Maybe you have this bad entity just following you and really ruining your life because they got
Right.
nothing going on, and they're trying to get
Right.
you to give them that power, to give them that what they don't have. Like, it's like you said, I strongly believe in that also, that whatever is demonic or anything that's evil is below us. That's why it's
Yes.
desperately trying to bother you. It's getting you.
Right.
You have something they want, and it's not
Right.
just it's not as simple as just, oh, I just want to make your life a living hell and giggle in the afterlife. Like, they want your
Mhm.
soul, they want your energy, they want your spirit, your family, your love, your they want all of that. I strongly believe in that.
Right.
And I think it's people being better educated, that there are good people who have this gift such as yourself out there, that are willing to give your time and help and properly inform people, or give them the chance to have that peace with a family member who's passed on, or to rid any bad energy that they have around them, and give them that chance to actually live a life with some clarity, you know. Because I
Right.
feel life's already as hard as it is, man, without having these afterlife
Right.
stuff going on, and you thinking that you're just a shitty person. It's like, yo, I can never get it right. Anything that bad can happen is gonna happen to me. And it's like, it's not that. You just have this thing like following you and hovering over you, that you're
Mhm.
giving it power, and you need to learn to kill it. You know, the same way that we have to cut
Right.
certain people out of our lives is the same way of clearing that energy
Right.
from us and making sure that it's not passed on from generation to generation. I believe in that also, you know. And
Right. Yeah,
what
for sure.
yeah, what I wanted to ask you next is, you're a young reader. You at 24, you relatively young for a tarot card reader. How do you approach building trust and credibility with your clients, especially those who might be skeptical about it all?
Such a great question. One thing that I want to say before I answer your question is a lot of the times when people are having trouble in life, it isn't just, like bad spirits or anything. Like you were saying, it can be related to family members, it can be related to a bad mindset. I use a lot of what Gary says actually in my readings. Like, don't let your circumstances define you. I just wanted to clarify that because sometimes when people have a lot of bad luck, it's not just because of like supernatural stuff. um but to answer that question, I am very young, and I'm probably the youngest professional tarot reader that I've ever met. um In terms of building trust, I think that what really helps people is that I'm just a normal person. What I mean by that is a lot of the times when people see psychic mediums or tarot readers or astrologists, for lack of a better word, they are considered very weird by the rest of society. Maybe they look kind of different. Maybe they dress differently. Maybe they just have a different vibe about them. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that for me, like, I consider tarot a gift. It is something that I do to help people. Um, and I honestly think that my age and the way that I present myself does help in terms of like people trusting me because they're like, oh, she's just normal. Like, I think that at first there may be a little bit of apprehension of like, okay, she looks too normal. Like, what's going on here? And then it's like, oh, no, like she's the real deal. So I think that, I do think I have a particular type of clientele that comes to me. Most of my clients are moms. Um, and they are looking for a friend, and sometimes having that guidance in the form of me, from somebody who still has a lot of hope and energy helps them. And I'm not trying to push my agenda on anybody. I want to say thank you so much for giving me a platform to talk about this, because, and by the way, Savvy, I accept your apology. I did get to read your comment. Um, you, like, people who think that what I do is bad, you guys got to understand, I hear this all the time. And I have no problem with that. It is when people start to treat me in a bad way when I'm like, all right, hold on. Because there's a lot of Christians in this area who treat me very poorly, treat my family very poorly because of the way that we look, the way we do things. And when I see a person on the street, like, I'm not going to assume things about them. Or if somebody says, oh, like, I'm a Christian, I'm not going to be like, well, I don't like Christians. So
I
when people are like, yeah, I don't really trust tarot, that's great. Like, you follow your faith, you do what you need to do. If
exactly.
people open that door and they're like, hey, like you, and I really appreciate you for opening up this line of contact to be like, hey, can you talk about this? And I'm like, yes, thank you for giving me an opportunity to explain what I do and why I do it. Um, and like we've been talking about, this thing that I do can be used for evil, and that kind of segues into, I think, the story about the Renaissance Festival that I shared on my Twitch stream. Is it okay if I tell that here?
Yes, I actually wanted that was the next question I wanted to ask you. And you mentioned having an experience with a phony tarot card reader at the Renaissance Fair in your stream last night. Can you elaborate a little bit on
Yep,
that experience, and also help our listeners by sharing a little bit of information on how they can identify an authentic and trustworthy reader compared to a phony one?
for sure. So, first of all, I think that with like tarot readings and stuff, you can't really tell based on the price. People are going to price their stuff at what they value. One of the great ways to identify a tarot reader is if they say they can guarantee something. We can't guarantee shit. That's like, I'm not God. Do I work very closely with God to do what I do? Yes. But there are some things that God may not want the client to know at that time because it's just not time yet. So anybody who's like, I guarantee that through this reading you're going to get your ex back, or I guarantee that you're going to get a great job, like, you can't guarantee that. Um any tarot readers that say they can predict death, not true. We can't do that. Um, if people ask, I'll tell them I can have a vague idea, but the future is written very much in pencil, not pen. So that could change. One of the things that I tell people is like, we'll do a really great reading, super awesome, right? And I'll be like, look, this is what I see for you right now with the path that you're going on, the energy that you have, blah, blah, blah. If you start going and doing heroin tomorrow, all of this changes.
Yep.
And so, yeah, tarot readers who say they can guarantee something, who say they can predict something with finality, no, we can't do that. I will be completely honest about the fact that sometimes I will say something and it may not happen on the timeline that I saw it happening. It may not happen at all because spirit has decided that you need to go on a different path. You need to do some other things before we can get to this point. Um, and there have been some clients where I've said something like, "Hey, I see this happening for you." And I have a timeline, and it's like, oh, it didn't happen in that timeline. And then like a year later, they were like, hey, this happened at the exact month and day that you said it would, just like a year after the fact. Um, and oh, if they charge really okay. My rates at this point that we're recording this, which is June 5th, 2024, my rates are $50 for half an hour and 100 for a full hour. That reflects sort of the market prices. I'm a little bit on the lower end. But if they charge by the minute, I find that to be a huge red flag
Yeah,
personally.
I hear you. Yeah, I
I
would
do
agree.
blocks. I do blocks like the half hour and full hour. But there are plenty of readers who are like, I charge $6 per minute. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's
you
crazy.
know, that's like no job like pays somebody per minute. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Um, so with this whole Renaissance Festival thing, I went 2 years ago to the Texas Renaissance Festival, and I really wanted to get my cards read by someone else because I don't often have the opportunity to have my cards read by other people. It's very rare. And I was like, oh, I'm excited. I really want to do this. I really want to see like what this other person has for me. Part of like the fun of tarot is that like a third party who is a stranger is telling you stuff and you're like, oh, like this is obviously true. Spirit is coming through, your angels are coming through to tell this person to tell you, right? And so first of all, she was late, which like wasn't a huge deal for me. But like apparently her other readings had ran late, so she was like eating lunch late, but like no big deal, right? But I just had to mention that because like being late to an appointment is like, hmm, don't love that.
Yep.
Um, I'm gonna share the same TMI that I did. Oh, I'll tell it in this way first. So we got up to her little place where she does the readings. I sit down, she sits down. Before we even get started, okay? Her cards are on the table. She's like, I just want to say that I am so sorry for that abortion or that miscarriage that you had. That baby is still with you now, and it wants you to know that you didn't do anything wrong. And it's just like telling me all this stuff about this baby that doesn't exist because PR, I'm a virgin.
That's why I'm like for anyone who missed last night's stream on her page, and your Twitch page is Full Moon Children, right?
Yes, full moon children.
Full Moon Children on Twitch, and also on X and on Instagram.
On
And
X, it's full moon kids because
Full
children
Moon
wouldn't fit.
Kids, yes, kids. But that's the reason I'm laughing is because yesterday she shared this story with us, and I was waiting for it to be like I thought it was gonna go the other way, and when she mentioned all this, I'm like, ah, damn. That then for you to be reading cards yourself, and then for you to go to someone else and have that be your experience, it kind of sucks, doesn't it? It kind of like
Yeah,
makes you be like, and the reason I look at it like that, because I myself would be like, damn, one, I'm kind of disappointed because I wanted to get my stuff read and I don't want to do it myself. And two, it
right.
makes you think like, how many people has this person done this to?
Such a sensitive topic too, right?
Yes,
Um, like, for me, obviously it wasn't because this hadn't happened. There was literally no possible way that could have ever happened to me. I know some people get uncomfortable when I talk about that, but it's important to the story that you guys know.
yes, uh-huh,
And like for me, there have been times where I'm reading cards for a woman and I'm having this really strong message in my ear. She's lost a baby. She's lost a baby. And I will do my absolute best to approach it in the most sensitive way possible and be
exactly.
like, "Hey, I'm showing that there's a loss here. Would you like to talk about it?" And then they might open up about, "Yes, I had a miscarriage." Um or yes, I had an abortion. And it's just such a sensitive topic. Like so then, the rest of the time she was wrong about pretty much everything. And I don't know why I didn't. I guess it was just the feeling I had. I was like, I'm not going to call this woman out. I'm not going to call her a phony. I'm not going to cause a scene. I'm just going to be like, Thanks. And I left. And when I left, my friend was waiting for me and she was like, how did it go? And I immediately started laughing. Because it was such a weird situation, you know? Um, where was I going with this? My train of thought.
We were talking about the lady who you experienced at the Renaissance Fair, and
Mm-hmm.
I asked you basically what you thought about how many people she took advantage of, and you
Oh,
mentioned how,
probably thousands.
yeah,
She's probably, and I don't remember how much the reading was. Maybe it was like $25, maybe it was 30. I don't know, but like that's just such a terrible thing to do to somebody.
sorry, there's a bunch of extra noise coming. I want to close it to make sure it didn't interrupt.
No, you're good, you're good. So, I've done festivals before, and there are some people who I've worked in proximity to where I'm like, oh, okay, like this person is also the real deal. I am never gonna. The other thing is that, like, if you feel like you're being told all the stuff you need to hear, I would kind of question that experience. Oh, I almost forgot to mention this. There's something called a cold reading. And when I'm doing a reading face to face or on the phone, um, I'm going to lay the cards down and I'm just going to do the reading. And I'm not going to ask you any questions except for, hey, does this metaphor make sense? Um, like, I want to make sure that I'm on the right track when I'm reading someone's cards, but I'm not going to be like, I typically don't ask my clients unless it's like a regular and they come see me every 3 months and I'm like, hey, what are we talking about today? But like if a tarot reader is like, so what must be your troubles today? Are you dealing with some marital problems?
Yeah,
Or they're just like trying to pull information out of you to be able to use it in the reading.
yep,
That's a cold reading. That is a red flag to me. When I hear, like, when I've done festivals and I've heard other readers doing that, I'm like, and I think I'm actually kind of an unusual tarot reader because I kind of don't let my clients get a word in edgewise until after I've finished reading all of the cards that are laid out. And then I'm like, okay, you've just gotten a lot of information in the past 20 minutes. What do you want to talk about?
yep. And that's what
um,
really I liked what you did about it yesterday. Yesterday you were doing free tarot card readings for people that were just in the chat. They didn't share anything, and from their reactions and what they shared, you were spot on, and you were sharing a lot of things that it's like when you were talking about Soggy, it was weird because
mhm.
I spoke to him and we spoke about certain things off stream that he didn't share publicly and that I didn't make public and I haven't told anyone because I haven't talked to you personally. You know what I mean? And you said some things that I was like, yo, what the fuck? And that's what really got me because then he even said, he goes, wow, like you hit on a bunch of stuff. And that's what really got me to be like, yo, this is crazy. Like, and that's what really made me even more interested. Even Brofit was sharing how it was powerful and emotional to him, and overall just a great experience from yesterday. And that's what really got me to be like, you know what, I gotta give it, like, the more and more you did it for people, the more and more I was like, I want to get mine also. But I was like, you know what, let me wait because I want to have her on the podcast. So maybe we could do it on the podcast also to give other people
Sure.
an experience of it also. So later on, I would like to touch on that too. But it's like you're saying, that's what I wanted to see. Like, I was still skeptical about it, and I wanted to just see how you went about it. And that's what was really blowing me away. In my mind, I kept thinking, all right, there's a lot of people that I've come across that basically they'll ask certain things and take an educated guess and they're really close to it. And people are like, oh my God. Meanwhile, I'm like, yo, you just literally told her exactly what she just said. Like, why are you so surprised about? Meanwhile, you were really spot on with a bunch of stuff, and you're doing it with people online who you're not in the same room with. You can't read their body language. You know what I mean? You can't go off of certain things, how they're reacting or how they're speaking or what they're sharing. So that's what's like, I was like, all right, she's doing this online with people, but she also does it personally. That's why I also asked, like, is it different or is there a stronger reading compared to you doing it online for someone over the phone or whether you do it in person? And that's why I also wanted to ask, before, when you were mentioning how you were able to do it for your friend and you didn't even use cards, you know? So I wondered
Mhm.
like if there's other things that I'm just not even aware of that you can use to do, because like in movies you see people take, like, you know, I know it's just movies and it's done for like sarcastic effect, but they'll take bones or something or rocks or pebbles and they throw it on the floor and it like comes and they'll do
Mhm.
like, is there something else along the lines that you can use besides tarot cards to get that same type of effect in the sense of being able to read certain things a certain way?
Mhm. Yes. So I I can do the readings over the phone. I can do them on a live stream, video call, in person. I prefer to do them in person. That is my preference. Do I feel like it makes a difference either way? No, it doesn't. It's just that I like being able to hold someone's hand if I need to. I like to be able to hug them after the fact. I like to be able to connect on a more personal level, but there's nothing, it doesn't make it better if it's in person. But so as I started like with the beginning of the stream, like people can use playing cards to read. If they have the gift, if they have the gift of clear seeing, oh, what is it called? There's the five clairs: clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient. I used to know all of them, but I don't say them enough to remember. But when you have the gift of clear seeing, clear hearing, um, I feel like you can basically use anything. Now, I have my deck that was made for me that I use, and it is my favorite deck, and I connect with it the best. But if I was on the fly and somebody, like, let's say I'm at VCon and I don't have my tarot cards, and someone's like, Megan, quick, I need you to read my cards, and they give me a pack of playing cards. I'm like, okay, and I can do it just then.
Okay, nice.
Um, it makes like even if okay, so like when I was 19, I did um start consulting an older tarot reader, somebody who had been doing it for as long as I had been alive. Um and he started like he's really one of the biggest catalysts for me being confident enough to start Full Moon Children. And he taught me about like how to there were these cards. I forget what they're called, but they're like blank cards, like pure white, and then there's like a very simple symbol, like a square or a cross or a circle. And he was like, read them. Read me. Tell me what's going on in my life with these cards. And I was like, but there's no pictures on them. And he was like, exactly. You're just going to be testing out your pure ability on this. And I was like, okay. So I was like, all right, I'm going to try this. And he was like, you were spot on. And he explained every single thing that I had said to him relating to each of, like, it was a square. And I just looked at the square and focused really hard on what spirit was telling me and relate it to the client. The thing that you were talking about with bones, that is an actual thing.
Jesus.
um,
I thought that was for exaggeration effect. Now I'm worried. I'm gonna find somebody with a little
no,
bag of bones or something, just like.
they're very small animal bones. I don't do it. I think it's fascinating. And then you were talking about like pebbles. So
Mhm.
smooth stones with runes carved into them are also used. Um, and that's like a Norse thing. Um,
See that's why I asked,
but
because
there's
like
so
I don't know, like I want to make sure like I don't ever want to come across someone who has a gift and then as soon as they pull out
Mhm,
a thing of bones, like I'm gonna read you, I'm like, yeah, all right, you don't have cards. Like I know this isn't real. You get
mhm,
what I'm saying? Like, so that's why I asked, because
right.
like I'm pretty sure myself, just like many others, when they want to get educated on stuff, they go right to the internet. And when you go to the internet,
Mhm,
it's a never ending rabbit hole. Like you see every form of
right.
everything, and it's just hard to really know who to trust or who to believe and who to follow and whose word to take. So that's why I asked. So if this, it sounds ridiculous, I'm sorry. I don't mean it to be. I'm just really like, these are serious questions that I have about it. that I just
Right.
want to get properly educated, because like I don't ever want it to come across and like I would like someone to be like, yeah, don't you know a person that reads cards? Like, yeah, you know that this is all for effect, or this isn't real, and that's how you can tell they don't know. So it's like it's things like that that I want to be properly educated on. So if and when that time comes that someone's like, I don't just want to be like, yo, go to the podcast or go to this person. I want to at least tell them enough to be like, all right, you kind of make sense. Let me go check out what this person's about, you know?
Right. Right. No, for sure. I guess to like sum it up very simply, if they do a cold reading, they're asking you questions and not really paying attention to the cards. If they charge by the minute, um, if it just kind of seems like they're making assumptions about you. Also, if they have like a weird name like Madame Cleo, that's
Yeah.
like a caricature. Like that's not. Um, and honestly, just like get a vibe of it. People do tarot cards, people do rune stones, people do bones. Some people have what's called oracle cards. They're very similar to tarot cards.
Okay.
Um, some people do dice.
Yes, that's another thing I've seen also. I've seen people use like weird dices with like symbols and stuff like that on them also as well.
Mhm.
So before
I can read a crystal ball, by the way. So not all people with a
yes,
crystal ball are magicians.
that's what I wanted to ask you. Is that like a
Yeah,
thing, or is that just for show?
it
Like
is.
what the hell?
No, it's a thing.
But is it all right? But is it really just like a just the crystal ball you can get, or is it like the stones and stuff where it has to be a specific type of like crystal ball made out of a specific type of I don't know what I know it sounds
Mhm.
stupid, but I don't know what crystal
No, it
ball is
doesn't.
made out of. I'm assuming it's crystal, but I'm saying like, you know, is there a
Right.
specific type that you can look at it and be like, all right, this is just like some glass someone blew into compared to like a real authentic thing. You know how like there's different stones
Mhm.
that are made out of like so like I don't that's another thing I really don't understand, like the power of stones and all that stuff. Like I
Mhm.
understand the difference in it, but I don't understand the power behind it in that sense. So does it fall align with that also to the point that it needs to be a specific thing, or can you grab any crystal ball or any glass ball and be like, you know what, I can use this to channel my energy or whatever it is through it? Like, is that the way that
Right.
it works?
It's really about channeling your energy. And now some people I should have probably put a preface at the beginning. Everything said here is my opinion. I really shouldn't be like soul like I'm not saying this for every tarot reader, every psychic, but like from my opinion, from my experiences, um it for me, I've read in a glass ball, a perfectly perfect glass ball. I've also read into obsidian spheres, obsidian being that pure black stone. Some people have amethyst or rose quartz, but it's really about having a focal point. My tarot cards are my focal point. Some
Gotcha.
people use the crystal ball as their focal point, and I have done it. It's really difficult to lug around.
I believe it, especially because I've seen some. They're not these little things. They're pretty freaking big. So I could just imagine. And
They're
then if
pretty
it
big.
breaks or something, like
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's one of those things where like if someone has one, I'm like, that's probably real because not a lot of people will go into faking reading a crystal ball just because it's such a at this point it's such a joke that like when people have one and I've encountered them, I'm like they're probably actually telling the truth because almost no one thinks that that's cool.
yeah, they wouldn't
Uh,
go through that to carry it around. Like, listen, by the way, I got this with me just because I understand. I get you.
like I have my tarot cards on me almost all the time. If I was to carry a big ass crystal ball, like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know if that would get through like TSA. Like they'd be like, what is why do you have this?" And I'd be like, "Don't worry about it."
The next thing I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you before we move forward is intuition versus knowledge. How do you balance intuition with your knowledge of tarot card reading and the meanings on and that when you're conducting your readings, like how do you balance that from like what you already know to what you're being told or what you feel and what you experience when you're reading someone's card? Like how do you know to distinguish and separate one from the other, you know, because like you mentioned, you've done it for a few of your friends. You've also mentioned how you did it for your dad. So it's like how do you go about making sure that you separate that personal life or whatever you personally believe compared to what you're being told and what you're feeling to say and what you're reading in the cards?
That's a really great question. Thank you for asking. So, with tarot, at least with a traditional tarot deck, there's going to be 78 cards. Those 78 cards have 78 traditional meanings attached to them. All right. And so, like, for example, the Six of Wands. I know that the Six of Wands is typically going to mean victory, celebration, being celebrated by others, because that's the traditional thing. And when you study the tarot, you study the meanings, yes, to get a general grasp of what the vibe of that card is going to mean. But sometimes I may pull up a completely like a tarot card and be like, well, the traditional meaning is this. But for you, so like the Ten of Swords is a card that is like really scary for a lot of people.
I was gonna say
It
that doesn't
represents
scary.
it can represent death and betrayal. But I think that it represents strength and endurance in a person. While this can, relate to feelings of grief, sadness, etc., I have to look at the card and go, I know what this card means in the book, in the textbook, right? But what does this mean for my client? And there's also, when I lay the cards out to do a full reading, there's the positions of the cards mean things. So I'm able to go, okay, this card is in a really unusual position for in relation to all the other ones. And then I can focus and go, actually, I don't really think that this is related to my client, but it's actually related to this situation that they're in with another person, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of just a balancing act. And it is an art form. Some people will just read straight off the meanings of the cards. They will study them, memorize them. That's all they're going to do. I have my own feelings about that. I don't think it's necessarily wrong, but if you're charging money to do that, that's kind of weird. And as for my intuition, it's really like when I have the full spread and I'm able to look and I see the story. I will see the story, I'll hear the story that's going on, and I may pick out bits and pieces from a card because the cards have a lot of different symbolism as well.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, well, this shows me like the sun. The sun is the happiest card in the tarot. It represents security, growth, the light and love of God. And it's so, so, so happy. Now, if I see this behind a client, this can be that, this security and happiness is pushing them forward. If I see it, in front of them, that's what's coming for them. That era is what's coming for them. But yeah, I guess it's kind of hard for me to explain how exactly it works in terms of balancing that perfect amount of knowledge versus intuition. Now, like you were saying, if I know like my friends, I have a pretty good idea of what's going on for them, but sometimes things will come up and I'll be like, have you been lying to me? And they're like, what?
That's what I wanted to ask you
Like,
also. If you can tell someone's BSing you also.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's only ever happened in my professional career. It's only happened once, and that person is no longer allowed back at my practice.
Good. Good. Real quick before we go, before we keep going, Savvy is asking where can we book readings with you?
I don't have a website yet. So the best way to book a reading with me right now is to send me a message. And I am on Facebook, I am on X, I am on Instagram. You guys can even message my personal page at slowpoke_Megan to send me a DM and be like, hey, I want to book a reading. I know I need to get a website. It's just not really the priority right now because of other things I'm working on. But yeah, so just sending me a DM is the best way to do it. Or you can also email me at fullmoonchildren@gmail.com. And if you don't mind me
No,
saying how that process works.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm pretty flexible right now. I quit my full-time job to be able to do this and freelancing and whatnot. So like if you're like, like the only time I can do it is at 11 p.m. at night, I'll probably be like, okay, cool. My rates are $50 for half an hour and 100 for a full hour. Now, I do require a $20 deposit.
Smart.
The reason why I had to start doing that is because I had a lot of no call, no shows last year, and I was getting kind of sick of it. So I was like, okay, no, now you have to like prepay. So the $20 deposit goes towards the final price of the reading. So if you book, if you, it's Monday and you're booking for Friday, you'll pay me $20 on Monday. You'll pay the $30 if you're getting a half hour reading on the day of the reading.
That's fair.
Some people just choose to entirely prepay, but yeah, you have to at least put down a deposit to hold the spot, because my time is money.
Yes, no, and that's good. I respect you for doing that also, and I believe many people would too. So, just in case for anyone listening, anyone watching, whether you're here live or whether you're watching this after we've been live, just know that I'll be putting all of Megan's social media information in the description below, wherever you're watching this, wherever you're listening, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook also, and on X, or even on any of your audio streaming platforms. All the information is going to be in description, all her social media, her email, anything that she would like to share with me for you to contact her and book your own reading or learn more about her and what she has going on. I'll make sure that I share all that. Before we go any further, I wanted to ask you real quick, beyond fortune telling, like, can you explain the misconceptions that tarot card readers and that tarot card readers are simply about fortune telling? Like, I know, like a lot of people believe it. Like, it's like you said, it's not about telling the future or predicting exactly, what is gonna happen to you or how things are gonna turn out. Like, how do you use tarot card reading for personal growth and guidance, not for yourself, but also for other people, to just help them just get a better understanding of what's going on?
So with the discernment of doing tarot reading, right? So for myself, like with the job that I left, I it was a bad situation. I'm not going to get into it, but I read my cards and it told me everything that was happening at that moment and what I could look forward to. And I was like, all right, these are the steps I have to take to get to this point. But I basically was reading my cards to like ask permission with spirit, like, is it okay for me to leave? Is it okay for me to take this leap? And so, of course, seeing the leap of faith, seeing new beginnings, that kind of thing. Um, and for my clients, like I was saying, a lot of people, like, they don't expect the fact that this is a reflection of them. And so, like, when I lay out the cards the way that I do, I'm basically saying this is what I see, what's happening right now. This is what's happening at this moment. This is where your foundation is. This is where I see your energy is at. This is something that could be in your past or pushing you forward. And then these are the next steps we need to take based on where your energy is currently at. Typically my live streams are pretty positive, because people are just doing it for fun. But there are times where I'm pretty harsh with people, especially if they've been to me a couple times. And if I'm like, this is the fourth fucking time you've come to me and we're getting the exact same cards, which is statistically improbable, and spirit is telling me that you are not doing what you need to do to reach your goals, I get frustrated because it's like you could have everything that you want and you're not taking the steps. The cards are showing the steps in which to get to where you want to be. So the way I use so many food analogies. The way I say it is I can give you the recipe, I can even give you the goddamn ingredients, but you have to make the cake yourself. And so that's what I do.
I love that. No, and that's what I think a lot of people need to have a better understanding of, is that you're really not you're not here to tell them how their life is going to plan out and say it's written in stone, but you're here to just help guide them and basically help them focus the right energy in the right place instead of them just believing it's for one reason or another. I think the more that people have a better understanding of what's really going on, like I always say, I was mentioning it earlier in my I did a stream earlier this morning real quick, and I was mentioning it, like a lot of us, we all know what we have to do. Like we all have like
Mhm.
this gut feeling or this intuition that's like, all right, I need to change this, or this is what's holding me back, and this is what's making me feel shitty, and this is what's like putting me down. And but it also takes that other person, someone from the outside looking in, to really get us and slow us down and give us that talk and let us know, like, listen, I noticed that you're going through this, or I can see that you're feeling this, and I can see that you're changing and you're not the person that you really are. And I think that it's even greater when you have someone who has a gift such as yourself to be able to go a little step further than that and let them know that there's other things that they don't know, whether it's that they can't see it, feel it, or they're ignoring it. But I feel like everyone,
Mhm.
when it comes to that supernatural stuff or that spiritual feeling and that energy and all, I believe everyone at some point has had an experience with it. But it's either the lack of
Right.
knowledge or the fear of what it could mean and what it could be, that people push it
Mhm.
off and brush it off like, nah. It's the same way that we know what we have to do. We know that we have bad habits and we need to change it, but we're not willing to actually be that person to say it to ourselves. It's hard for us to
Right.
hear that from ourselves. But I feel like it
Right.
may not be easier to hear it from another person, but it's even harder, but it's more raw because you can tell that
Mhm.
you can't bullshit yourself. You know what I mean? Like, no one knows you better
Right.
than you. And then when you have someone else who's able to see that and able to tell you, especially someone like, if it's someone like yourself who you haven't been around or anything like that, and they're able to really tell you, like, yo, listen, this, and they're right on the head and they hit the nail right on the head, you're going to sit there and look at it like, yo, something's going on, and I need to pay
Right.
attention to something that I'm not noticing, or something that I'm really not giving the proper attention needs my attention. And I need to change
Right.
something, or I should stop ignoring it, and I should lean more
Mhm.
into it. I should stop fighting it. There's a lot of things that I strongly believe have to do with that side or that realm of spirituality and energy and what you believe in. And again, like, whether it's something that's passed down in your family, or I also, like, I don't know if this is something else that you've dealt with too. Like, someone has something that just carries that energy and they keep it with them all the time, whether it's a necklace or jewelry or anything, a piece of clothing. Like, I strongly believe in that too, that things carry bad energy with it, and you don't
Yep.
know that you lugging it around with you is just really dragging you down and absorbing all your goodness and all your love and care and everything. I strongly believe in all that stuff. And I,
Right.
I just think people need to give it more attention. Just give more an opportunity to learn this stuff. As
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie, like, as scary as it may sound when you're talking about it and you start experience, like, every time that you mention one of your stories and certain things, I'm getting goosebumps and stuff. And in my head, I'm like, yo, I don't know if I'm overthinking or I'm just like feeling this thing or like but at the same time, I can't ignore it, that it's happening.
Right.
It's something that's
Mhm.
physically happening and you can feel it. And it's just like, I don't feel this way normally. So, like, there has to be something going on. So I believe in all those little
Right.
signs of things.
Can I tell you about the story when my dad started believing in the tarot?
Yes.
Well, more like believing in me. And my dad has always believed in me, but he was kind of like skeptical. He was like, this is just like a fun thing that Megan does. And so when I was 18 or 19, 18, I think. It doesn't matter. It was sometime in there. It was only 3 or 4 years after I had started doing tarot. Dad and my mom and a bunch of other people from our shop, they went to this music festival. They went to tattoo at this music festival in Georgia. And dad called me out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I need you to read my cards." And I was like, "What? Like, you've never been interested before? Like, okay." And I was like, don't tell me anything about anything. Just shut the fuck up and I'm going to read your cards. And he was like, okay. So I laid out the cards and I was like, okay, well, it looks like you guys have encountered some sort of a like unexpected situation. It feels like somebody maybe lied about um, what you guys were supposed to be doing or what was happening because I'm seeing that there's this betrayal card here. There's this deceit that's going on. And in order to overcome this, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, fuck, you've been telling the truth this entire time. Like, you really can tell these sorts of things. Because I literally said, don't say anything about nothing. And some people I'm sure could be like, oh, well, you made an educated guess. I don't know. I feel like those things were kind of specific. And from that point on, he was like, yeah, no, I'm getting tarot readings regularly.
I love that.
That was like the point where my dad, like, he was like, this is the real deal. Like, you're the real deal. And you actually like have this gift. And I was like, been telling you.
I love that. Were you nervous though or anything like that? Or did you like, or okay, because that's another thing. Like I mentioned
No.
before, there's some people that they say like, oh, that's a rule. Like I can't read my own
Mhm.
cards or read my family's cards because, and then they have like their own reasons. So that's why I
Right.
find it interesting, you know. And again, I think it's just how you go about it. I believe it's a power that you can control. It's a gift that you have, and you can sense the same way that you can sense the bad stuff, you can sense the good stuff. And I feel that it's all up to the person on how they use that gift. Because just
Mhm.
like anyone else, you could decide one day, you know, screw it, I want to do this or I want to take it this. Like you never know. But at the same time, it comes down to the person. And that's why I was like, you know what? I can't always just look at it like it's a negative thing. Because once again,
Mhm.
like, you know, I haven't had the privilege of speaking to you such like we are right now, but I've gotten to know your
Right.
dad, and your dad
Mhm.
I hold in very high regards. I have much respect for your
Thank you.
father because he's took in the time to speak with me and to knock some sense into my head when a lot of people who I knew personally couldn't even do it. And I didn't know your dad from a
Mhm.
hole in the wall. I have yet to have the privilege to meet your father in person, you know. But even
Mhm.
just with the conversations that I've had with him over the phone or over DM and text messages and stuff, your dad has given me like this huge amount of knowledge or support and love that I can't say anything bad about your dad, and I don't have that thing. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, these people are truly good people. There's no way
Mhm.
that he would have raised any little malicious kids with bad intentions or nothing, you know. So you know,
Right.
the more I got to know your father, and then the more I started getting to know you through your streams and the way you interact and react with people online, it got me to be like, you know what, I can't sit there and just be like, oh, she does tarot card reading, like this is some bad juju stuff. Like I gave it a shot. You know, I was real hesitant to join the stream last night because I was scared shitless. I was thinking I was going to join and then I was going to wake up like on the ceiling or something the next day or so. Like that's really how like exaggerated I was about it. And like I said, like as soon as I saw tarot card readings, in my mind, everything like what I mentioned to you earlier is, you know, when I was a kid and that whole experience came up, and I was like, you know, my mother told me no and to stay away from that
Mhm.
type of stuff. You know, I mentioned the whole Ouija board thing. I brought one of those home one day, and Jesus Lord,
No, you
that
didn't.
yeah, but we didn't. I brought it home. I got it from. It was so weird. It was like a Jumanji like movie. The way it happened. Like I wanted to get it because I heard about it. I heard stories. I was young. We went to a It was like a Goodwill, and we were looking, and I saw one, and I wanted it, but my mom was like, no. She's like, no. She threw it. She chucked it. 3 days
Good.
later, 3 days later, I shit you not, I'm walking home from school and I see one in the trash, and I'm like, I'm taking it. I took it. It had everything in it. I took it. And as soon as I got home, my mother flipped. She took it. She lit it on fire. She burned it in the backyard. She started doing all this pray stuff. She had all these like she made these crosses out of like, I don't know if you ever seen it like on is it Good Friday or Good Wednesday or Hash Sunday or something like that? How they
Oh,
do,
yeah, yeah.
you know, the crosses made out of like that green stuff. I forget what it's called.
Right.
Yeah, so she had all those around. Like I'm like, yo, I brought something into the house, but was weird is that not shortly after that, there was always drama in the house. Everyone was always fighting with each other. And for so long, I felt like it's my fault. I brought something here, and it's messing with everybody. And that's when I really started like to believe in it, and started like so much shit started happening that I'm like, oh, it's because a black cat walked by or something. And it's like my bike, the chain would pop off while I'm riding it, and I just got it. I'd almost get
Oh
hit by
dear.
a car. I got lost and thought I was going to get kidnapped one day. Like, it was like all these things that were happening, but it was like literally right after that,
Um,
back to back for so long. And it just
yep.
got to a point that one day, and the thing that I think broke it, as crazy as it may sound, is not long after that, my family doesn't like, we go to church every once in a blue. But when we do go, it's never all of us. There's always like, we're always split up somehow. Like, it's either my dad's working and he can't go, and it's just me, my mom, and my sisters or whatever. But one day we all went, all of us together, and we were all at church, and it just felt different. Like, you know what I mean? We all looked at each other, and without even saying much, like, we just all knew that like whatever was going on and whatever was making us fight with each other was gone. Because after that day, it
Yeah.
was like an unspoken thing, and everything was fine. Everything went back to normal.
Right.
And I'm like, that's what it took. Whatever was like haunting us and
Yeah.
bothering us knew not to mess with us once we stepped in that church. And once we got out, it
Right.
didn't bother us again. And like being home, it didn't feel uncomfortable. There wasn't that heavy
Mhm.
feeling of, oh my God, I got to get out of my room and see these people or not. Like, all of that went away. So that's why I
Right.
really started believing. And that happened at a very young age. And I really, really believe in that stuff. So that's why, like, all those things, like, I believe that if something as simple as a little board game like that could have that much effect and power, I believe that
Mhm.
reading your cards, or even the whole thing with the bones and the dice and the crystal ball, like, I believe in that. And I have a better
Mhm.
understanding now. Before, I used to believe that it was the power, as crazy as it's going to sound, like some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, like it was the power that was in the cards. It wasn't that. It's your gift and your power, and you're
Mhm.
basically using the cards and all these other stuff as a tool to channel your energy through, which now I have a better
Right.
understanding of it, you know?
I'm so glad. And I will say this about Ouija boards. I have never fucked with one. I will never fuck with one. My friends have like teased me like, "Oh, we should get a Ouija board." And I'm like, I'm literally going to go home. Like, if you guys get a Ouija board, I'm going home. I do believe that those are bad, and that's a really controversial opinion in this whole scape. But yeah, no, Ouija boards are evil.
I
That's
believe you. Trust me. I don't need any more reassurance than that. I used to just be curious, and enough happened just by that I was like, you know what, my curiosity it's gone. I'm good. I don't need none of that in my life.
yeah, yeah.
For
No, I don't doubt it.
virtually versus in person, you offer readings virtually and in person. Are there advantages or disadvantages to each of these approaches? I know we've spoken about this before, but I just want to touch on it again, just in case people missed it. If there's anything you want to go more in depth in when it comes to that, because people did share how they wanted to reach out for you for some readings. So I wanted to know if there's anything that would help the reading be more clearer, or help you
Mhm.
get a more better reading. Is there anything, like you mentioned, for them not to share much, but is there anything, like, I know
Mhm.
there's some people that, I don't know, maybe they do it to get that help of a second guess or something like that. But is there anything you would recommend someone to like have while they're getting their reading? Like maybe something of a loved one that they would like to speak with? Like, do you do that specifically if they want to channel a specific soul
Mhm.
or person? Like, would they
Yeah.
do something like that? Like have a necklace of theirs or a shirt or something like that's like truly meaningful?
I think that would be good. That's called psychometry. When people give me when they give me an item of a loved one, and they're like, "What do you know about this?" This is like a side tangent. So my mentor from when I was a teenager, he was like, "One day you will probably be contacted by some police department to do work with them." And I was like, "What do you mean?"
That's
And he
crazy.
was like, "I have been contacted several times by different police departments all over the country to help with kidnapping and murder cases." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, so, like, there was the case of this, like, girl who went missing, in Texas." I won't give many of the details, but there was this girl, she went missing. The police department called my mentor and said, "Can you come? We will pay you to help us." And, they started giving him like items of hers to like hold. And through being able to channel her energy, he was able to give an approximate location of where she was without knowing any other details, and they found her. Um, so that's like another crazy way that
Yeah, that's
tarot can be
crazy.
used. They don't talk about it. The government and like police and stuff, they don't like to admit the fact that they use psychics and mediums and astrologers. I think the Kennedys had an astrologer that helped them. I need to look more into that. But yeah, several presidents and powerful political figures have had tarot readers and psychics. It's just really not talked about. But anyway, so like for doing a reading and making it better over the phone, over video, first of all, don't let there be any distractions. There are so many people who will be like, "Oh, I want to schedule a phone reading," and like their kids are like coming up to them being like, "Mommy, mommy, like I need this," and they're like, "Not now," and it distracts them from the reading. So eliminate distractions. If you're a mom or a dad and you need to, you know, wait until after your kids are put to bed, schedule it then. My schedule is really open. If you have someone living in the home with you where you're like I'm not really sure I want them to hear, you know, some people do it in their cars. I would just say don't do it in a way where you're going to be distracted. Um, some people, like a lot of my clients, love to take notes, and that can really help them. But yeah, if someone is wanting specifically to speak with a loved one, having something of theirs or a photo of theirs is always good. Um, but yeah, that's really all I can think that would like super help.
Hold on. And what about when it comes to preparing your no, not prepare. We already did that. You gave enough information about what they could do to prepare. What's a common question that you get from the people that you're going to read their cards? Like while you're reading the tarot cards, what are some of the common questions that you get from them during the session?
Um, that's a good question. Most people ask me about when is this going to happen. I wish I could give better answers on that. um, so people will be like, okay, well, you're saying this is going to happen, but like when? And I'm like, I can give a timeline, but I don't know exactly when. Um, and this is no tea, no shade, but like a lot of people ask me about romance,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with that, but I am pretty explicit with people about how like you can ask that. I don't like to do romance readings. I feel like I don't do them very well, and I'm super honest about that. Um, I haven't had great luck in that department, so I'm really biased. Um, Now sometimes I will really see strongly, like, oh my God, like you're gonna meet your person, you guys are gonna get married, it's gonna be fantastic. And then sometimes it's like, I got nothing. Like this is radio silence.
Mm-hmm.
And people really don't like to hear that.
I get you.
Um, so
I
yeah,
hear you.
romance and when are like the most common questions. Or like I guess like the most common question is, am I on the right path?
True. I would ask that also. Honestly, that would be
Mhm.
something. The romance thing, I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably be tempted to ask that also. And then also, trying to the whole what's my future and all that stuff. That's something I believe that is in the back of my mind when it comes to this stuff. Because again,
Mhm.
like when you hear tarot card readings, I really forget the whole aspect of the cards. I look at the
Mhm.
first thing that comes in my head is just the lady with the crystal ball, and that
Mhm.
whole thing, because that's really all you see when it's represented on TV or online, and it's really not always all about that. You know what I mean? And speaking with
Mhm.
you, I've really learned that, and that's what I really like. I feel like there's more. I feel like people that stick to the other stuff and say that it's strictly just that, it really gets people to think that that's all it's about. And speaking with you, I've gotten to see that it's more than that. There's a lot more that goes into this, and there's a lot more that you can get out of it. And not only just hope, but I guess it's the sense of peace and clarity, and that's something that I
Mhm.
think a lot of people such as myself look for, which is why we would turn to this, and we would want to see if someone else can help us, because we kind of, when you go through all the other things and you go off that checklist of everything that you think it could be and everything you think that can help, you start going to that stuff that you don't know and the unknown, and you start looking for
Mhm.
answers. And sometimes, like I mentioned, you get desperate enough to just go to anybody, and you really don't know
Yeah.
how to tell if this person's really has your best interest at heart, or they're just trying to get a buck out of you, or what it is.
Mhm.
So I think that a lot of that stuff really does help. And when it comes to you addressing skepticism surrounding tarot card readings and their differences and their effectiveness when it comes towards it, how do you address that to people?
Skepticism.
Yeah.
Um, the best way. So people who are skeptics typically don't come to me. When they do, and they're like, I'm not really sure. Like, I'm not sure if this is real. All I ask of them is to please have an open mind. Because just like with therapy, if you don't have an open mind, if you don't have the energy of, I want to get something out of this, then you're not going to get anything out of it. Like, that's just the fact of the matter. So I ask people to have an open mind, and I've had people who are complete atheists, who don't believe, who are like, yeah, no, I'm just doing this because like I'm with my friend and they want me to do it too. And I'm like, okay, well, can you please have an open mind? And they're like, yeah, sure, you seem cool. And then they come out of it like, uh, okay, I think I have some things to reevaluate in my life. And I'm like,
True.
but yeah, it's like, kind of like we were talking about earlier in the podcast, when there are people who are like, oh, I don't do tarot, like tarot is evil or whatever. That's like your choice. Like that's your thing. Just like, please still treat me with kindness no matter what you think I am.
I agree.
If someone like you, and I'm so, so grateful for you for giving me the platform to explain this accurately. Like, you being open, even if you're scared to hear about what and why I do it, that really helps when people are like, well, I don't really believe in it, but can you tell me why you do it? And I'm like, absolutely. And then we get to have a cool conversation like this.
Yes, no, I love it. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come on, for being so informative, for being so open and sharing your personal experiences that you've had with people. I know none of that is easy. And especially when you're doing it and it's being recorded and it's being online, having a
Mhm.
conversation with someone one-on-one is one thing, but doing it on a live stream and everything,
Right.
we've been going on now for an hour and 45 minutes. We're gonna close things up soon. Before we do, if you're okay with it, I would love for you to do a tarot card reading for me. But before we
Sure.
get to that, I just want to give a shout out to everybody right now. We got 48 people watching us on X. We had 3 people watching us on YouTube. And we also have 4 people right now. It's been going on and off from like 4 to 5 people watching us on Twitch. I want to give a shout out to Jesse Castro, who I had on the podcast, also to Brett, who's on YouTube, Bro Fit, Soggy, we had on here. Savvy D came by to show us some love. I really appreciate you guys, and also stop by to come in and check in and say what's up. We had Nath, who came on also. I know that he's over there in Australia. And that's is it Australia? Yeah, it's Australia, and that's a totally
Yeah.
different time zone. So I don't even know what. I'm pretty sure it's like the crack of ass right now over there for him. So thank you for stopping
Right.
by. Everybody, I really appreciate you coming by and showing interest in what Megan's doing and having your questions. Please make sure anyone who is watching and listening to this, whether you're here live with us, whether you're watching this this after the fact that it's recorded, or listening to any of your audio streaming platforms, please check out the description to get more information on how you can follow and support Megan and what she's doing, and also to get your own reading done by her. All the information will be in the description. So make sure you give her a follow, subscribe, show her some love. And before we get out of here, Megan, please, I'm kind of scared because I don't know what my cards are gonna say. My life is a little all over the place, but
Sure.
I would love and be honored if you can please give me a tarot card reading if you're willing.
Sure. This is going to be like how I did it in my how I do it in my live streams, where it's going to be 3 to 5 cards. So it won't be a full one, but I think that you'll still get some good information out of it. So if you'll just give me just a second.
No problem.
All right, Spirit. What does my good friend Gilberto need to know? What is the guidance that he needs at this time? So the method that I use when I'm doing like one of these like shorter readings is I just start shuffling and I let spirit pull the cards out. Um, when I'm in person with somebody or like over the phone, I shuffle if it's just over the phone, but in person, I will shuffle. My client will shuffle, and then I will have them cut the deck and then we'll read. But for this, I just let spirit pull the cards out. Where did that even go?
See,
Ah,
the
there it is.
spirit's already like, nope, not this guy.
No, it's actually a really good card that came out. Spirit, can I get 1 to 2 more cards for Gilberto? Well, that's perfect. That's 2. All right. I have pulled 4 cards for you. Okay. So the first one is the 7 of Pentacles. So you can see here on this card, the figure is leaning on his rake. He's in his garden. He's kind of taking a break. He's chilling out a little bit. He's worked hard. You can kind of see that he's "Hmm," like sort of sighing after a hard day's work. And the 7 of Pentacles represents that you are at a period of time right now where like if you're doing all the right things, okay? You're working really hard, but don't overdo it. Kind of you need to let some things sit is what I'm saying. Like if you were to be working in your garden all day and literally always working on it, well, then the plants aren't going to have room to grow. So the things that you're planting in your life, you need to give them a little bit of a break, do tend to them, make sure there's no weeds growing around them, make sure they're getting enough water. So do keep up the good work, but don't overdo it and give yourself some grace. Then we have the Page of Cups. The Page of Cups is quickly becoming one of my favorite cards for this season because it represents a sort of whimsical joy. The figure on this card, she is sitting on the beach. Her goldfish is peeking out. That goldfish represents prosperity and financial abundance. But the figure, she's having a good time. She's playing. This represents a sort of childlike fun. And so for the next, I would say about 8 weeks sounds good. For the next 8 weeks, I would really like you to focus on spending more time with younger energy. Um, my dad and I talked about this a long time, so I'm not exactly sure which Bible verse it is, but like Jesus said to be like the little children. We can learn so much from children because they don't have biases yet. They are completely pure of this world. So spend time if you have kids, I think you do, spend time with them. If you have little cousins, nieces, and nephews, spend time with them and really just have fun playing. Don't try to teach them anything. Don't try and, like be an adult. Be a child with them during this time to learn to improve yourself, to help yourself. We've got number 1, the magician. This figure who is holding a magic wand. They have a snake as a belt wrapped around their waist. This represents transformation as well as overcoming evil. They have these flowers that are looking all around them. This represents angels and divine protection. The cup, the sword, and the pentacle, that represents relationships, intelligence and intuition, and then finances. The magician is a card that really talks about manifesting your greatest desires. Now, you do have to put in the work to do this, but you have everything at your disposal right now to make your life the one that you want. Okay. That's what the magician is saying. Use your magic wand and wave it in a sense, and poof, it'll happen. It's not as easy as that. But, you know, I don't know if you're journaling, but journaling and doing like gratitude journaling, especially where you just write about like, I am so grateful that today I woke up and I was able to do what I love. I am so grateful that today I was able to go through the drive-through and get food for me and, my kids. I was able to do like it can be so simple. And when you have that attitude of gratitude, as I call it, you start to see that your life is so much more abundant than you realize. So, yeah, with the magician, recognize that you have this power, this ability to create this incredible life, and you're already kind of doing it. Last card for you, my good friend, is the Ten of Wands. Now, the Ten of Wands, this may be a little bit scary to see right off the bat, but this figure, she is on her hands and knees. She's kind of like sweating. She has tears pouring down her face, but she's not sad. She's relieved. The Ten of Wands represents being able to release a heavy burden at the end of a finish line. So, this is someone who has been on a long journey, somebody who has been carrying a great burden on their back. And you are reaching the end of that journey, my friend, and you're going to be able to set that burden down and have that relief. While the Ten of Wands may look like kind of a scary card at first, the tears that you will shed will be ones of relief and release. You are at the finish line and you've done well. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you so much, Megan, for doing that and for reading me my cards.
Of course.
It was pretty trippy. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of things you mentioned and just certain people, certain things. Like, what's weird, before you went into explaining it, seeing the cards made me feel a certain way, and certain things popped in my head, and then you were literally explaining what I was thinking in my head. That was what was kind of creeping me out a little bit. But you're
Honestly, it even creeps me out sometimes.
yeah, it's weird. Like, I got goose, like I can't even fucking, like, my hairs are standing up and everything. Like, I feel so, not in a bad way, but I guess, like, in a way, it's like a sign, like, it's like a relieving feeling. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
there's some people in here that I know I've had conversations with personally, or that I reach out in DMs and I talk to, and I share them, and I share with them my personal stuff that I'm going through. So I'm pretty sure they're a little like, yo, what's going on type stuff too, because it's crazy. I've just did, you already did my card reading, so I don't have to worry about you using anything I'm saying in any other way to like take advantage of it or nothing. But basically, yeah, everything you're saying, I have felt like I've been dealing with a lot of stuff, and I'm hoping I'm getting to the point where things are starting to change and become better. I didn't have a job for quite a long time. I was getting down to my last dollar. I finally landed 2 jobs. They're not easy. It's making me sacrifice a bunch of stuff, but at the same time, I'm seeing that those
Right.
sacrifices within time are going to pay off. You know, um, yeah, it feels good. It makes me feel good, in all honesty. Like, it kind of reassures me that I'm on the right path, I guess, or like
You
I'm
are on the
making
right path.
or I'm doing the right thing, or I'm making the right sacrifices, or because those are things. That's why I was skeptical about asking for my card reading, because of the fact that there's, like I said, my life is like all over the place, and the number one thing that I'm curious, so that's everyone would like to know, like, am I doing it right? Am I going the right way? Am I messing up? Am I should I have went left, being that I went right? Things like that. And to
Right.
just hear you say all that stuff, and for me not to even tell you anything, is a
Mm.
trip. You know what I mean? It's
Can I show
reassuring.
you one more card?
Yes, as long as it's not me with 13 swords in my head.
No. Zero, the Fool. The Fool, the title may sound kind of weird, but You have taken such a great leap of faith, okay? And that is what the Fool is showing me, is that you've taken this leap of faith. You are trusting in God. You are trusting in the path that you are going down. You don't have to worry about this, okay? A new era is about to begin for you. Continue to take those leaps of faith. You're not going to have any baggage going forward with this new era of your life. You're going to be surrounded by transformation and good friends and loyalty. Um, and you're going to be, I think, reinventing yourself a little bit. What's really cool though is about like the Fool Zero. This is both considered the start and the end of the tarot. She turns into the magician. So it's actually the same person,
Wow.
but the magician just has their face.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So out of the cards that you could have gotten, it really does show me you're entering a new era. You trust yourself. You're about to be able to let go of what's going on that's been holding you down. And thank you so much for trusting me with this, because I know that that must have been difficult and that must have been scary. But like,
Yeah,
again, I just want to say that I'm really proud of you for what you've done. And I really can't wait to see how you're going to improve in the future, because you're just getting started.
I really appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that. I appreciate you so much for coming on here and sharing your gift, not only with me, but with everyone else that's willing to listen and tune in. I appreciate all of it. I appreciate what you're doing, not only right now, but the fact that you're doing what you're doing for other people in a positive way. Like Savvy says, you're sharing your light, you're helping other people find their light and brighten their light and help them find their way. We definitely need more people like you in the world that are willing to share their gifts in
Yeah.
a positive way and just help people, like I keep saying, find that clarity and get that peace, and just be better informed, not only about what's going on with themselves, what's going on around them, whether they can see it, feel it, hear it or not. It's something that there's not many people that have this gift or that have this ability, or not even that have it and are willing to share it with everyone without a second thought. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate you. I'm really looking forward to
Honored
what
to
you're
have
doing.
been able to do this.
I'm looking forward to what you're doing next. Trust me, I'm going to be tuning in. I'm like hooked now. I want to know more. I want to learn more. And yeah, thank you for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate it. Everyone who came in and showed love. Knock Show, you showed up. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Soggy for still staying around. Same for Savvy. Bro Fit, he left a little not too long ago, but thank you for coming by. Who's this? Jose, thank you for stopping by, bro. Oh snap, yeah, I gotta add you also. But thank you all so much.
Yeah.
I'm feeling some type of way. I'm not gonna lie. My heart is beating like 100 miles a minute right now, but in a good way. I'm not gonna lie. You saying all that, I feel as light as a fucking feather right now. Like I'm
Good.
fucking hype. I feel like
This
I can punch through a wall right now.
this is why I do what I do, because and I know that we're like wrapping up, but like 2 weeks ago, I had this girl who is like a year younger than me come to me. She got a reading. She was just crying the whole time because like her life was kind of falling apart. The things weren't going the way she wanted to. And she texted me this morning and she said, Megan, I got a job. And like that energy and this energy is like why I do this, because it helps and it makes me feel like I'm contributing something that helps. And again, thank you so much, Gilberto, for having me on and to be able to explain what I do. It's such a major honor, and to be able to have this platform is massive. So
No, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And anything I can do to help in any way, please let me know. I'm a DM away. I tell everyone the same thing. I'm not the richest or smartest man in the world, but if I can do it, I will. And without a hesitation, I owe your father more than what I can say, man. I owe your father a lot. And it's just from him speaking words and taking the time to listen to me and share stuff. And your dad is an amazing man. Ben, if you're
thank
listening or
you.
watching
Thank you.
secretly around there, you raised a very, very intelligent and a very amazing young woman. And I'm looking forward to what she's going to be doing and what she's going to offer the world. And I'm pretty sure everybody else is also. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
tuning
you.
in. Megan, thank you so much for stopping by and taking the time. Everyone, please make sure you go and give Megan a follow, not only on Twitch, but on X and on all her other social media platforms. I'll be sure to make sure that I share all her social media information and contact information in the description of wherever you're listening or watching to this. And yeah, this has been Clocking Out Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. I love you guys. Stay safe. Peace.
God bless.